viewers are watching RTD's English News Edition. Here are our top stories. An important Djiboutian delegation is visiting New York for the General Assembly of the United Nations. Ebola, the Democratic Republic of Congo wants to introduce a second vaccine. Thank you for joining us in our newsroom. The President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, has sent today a message of congratulations to the King of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and guardian of the two holy places, His Majesty Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, whose country is celebrating the anniversary of its National Day. In his message, the President of the Republic welcomed the quality of the relations of friendship and cooperation between the two countries and the two brotherly people. Djibouti and the Saudi brother kingdom have privileged links and its almost sectors of activities, wrote President Guelleh, who welcomed the convergence of views characterizing the two countries in terms of approach and management of many regional and continental international issues. Be assured that you will always find with the government and people of Djibouti all the necessary assistance to strengthen the excellent relations between our two nations, also noted His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh. A similar message was also sent to the Crown Prince of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, His Royal Highness Mohammed bin Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud. The 74th session of the United Nations General Assembly was opened with the participation of the Secretary General Antonio Guterres, the President of the new session of Nigeria, Tijani Muhammad Bande, and representatives of the member states of the United Nations. The multicultural system is capable of finding real solutions to the challenges that the world is currently facing, he said, expressing deep concern at what he called a low confidence among nations. Guterres praised the new president of the General Assembly, Bande, who served as his country's representative to the United Nations until last year, and said he will also bring valuable insights on some of the pressing peace, security, human rights, and sustainable development challenges facing this party, from the spread of violent extremists to the threat of global climate crisis. Pende said he will pay close attention to the effective implementation of the priorities inherited from previous sessions and other priorities, including strengthening peace and security, increasing partnerships for the implementation of sustainable development goals, and among others. During a meeting, Mr. Mohammed Ziad Douale, Djibouti's ambassador to the United States and permanent representative to the United Nations, gave an overview of the main themes of the 74th session of the United Nations General Assembly, which will attend by President of the Republic Ismail Omar Guelleh. As well, this multilateral system is capable of finding real solutions to the challenges of the world is currently facing. Mr. Mohammed Ziad Douale, and they said that there will be a climate summit, as climate change is an urgent issue of the recent tragedy in the Bahamas and is a perfect illustration of the seriousness of the global climate change situation. The scientific data are there, and yet it seems that collective actions, there are hesitations, he said. So the President will participate in the climate summit scheduled for the September 23rd. He will also participate in the high-level segment of the General Assembly. He will also certainly meet many of his peers for bilateral meetings. The President will also take part in an event organized by the President Trump on freedom of religion. It is a busy schedule. This session of the General Assembly is particularly important to us, he said. The General Assembly is chaired this time by an African president, Professor Tijani, who is a friend of Djibouti and someone who we have convinced ourselves to give the world the sense of urgency it needs to fight poverty, inequality, and promote inclusion with renewable energy. It should also be noted that there will be two important events, one on universal health coverage. It is a central issue for the well-being of our population, has continued the ambassador, and an overview of where we are on the implementation of the 2030 agenda, has concluded the ambassador Mohammed Ziad. On Wednesday, August 21st, 2019, the African Union validated Kenya's candidacy for the post of non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council for the period 21st, 2022. Considering that this decision is an injustice, the Djibouti government has reacted by means of official statement insisting in particular on the Republic of Djibouti's commitment to its candidature for this post. For Djibouti, this candidature is both legitimate, but it is opposed and also denounces the method used by the Committee of Permanent Representatives to the African Union, considered as little transported contrary to traditional practices and respect for the principles of rotation which have prevailed over the years. This is why, since this decision, Djibouti decided to stand for the election to all United Nations members in the election to be held at the General Assembly in New York in June 2020. This is the beginning of a major diplomatic operation. Djibouti has already obtained the support of the Arab League, the Francophonie, and the Organization for Islamic Cooperation, whose weight within the UN remains very high. To broaden the support, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, is increasing consultations and meetings, including the Diplomatic Corps accredited Djibouti, a meeting that allowed the head of Djibouti's diplomacy to explain to the ambassadors present how Djibouti's candidacy is legitimate and therefore their support remains important. The minister said, if we have decided to continue our quest for this non-permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council for the period 2021-2022, it is because all the reasons mentioned above indicate that the time has come for Djibouti to take on the responsibility of participating in the global and collective effort for peace throughout the world. And also because we firmly believe, he said, in a principle of equality and equity among the member states of the United Nations in serving on the Security Council, let alone African countries that have only 3 seats out of 15 in the UN body. Djibouti therefore believes, he said, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, that it is in this its rightful right and requests the support for your countries for its candidacy. Here in New York, the staff of Djibouti's permanent mission to the United Nations is at work. In addition to being mobilized for the United Nations General Assembly, in which President Ismail Mergeli will participate, the permanent mission is also in the middle of a campaign to help the country increase its chances of being elected in June 2020 as Mohammed Ziad Douale, Djibouti's ambassador to the United States and permanent representative to the UN, explained to us. He said that many of the countries that belong to several regions of the world, because they are convinced that Djibouti has a contribution to make, already in reading means 2 years ago. Every week, not a week has passed without a new country expressing in writing its intention to support Djibouti in its quest. It is customary for us to exchange votes as well. That is, a country is an interest party in a United Nations commission or body. As part of the campaign, we say that is what we would like to do and by doing exchanges with other countries, said the ambassador. Today, on the basis of the criteria that the African Union has for the sovereignty has given itself, the position belongs to the Republic of Djibouti. In this argument, we would like Africans to understand them and vote in favor of Djibouti as well as other external actors, because these are 194 states that will finally vote in June 2020, and every vote counts. The ambassador of the United States of Djibouti, Mohammed Ziad Douale, said the arguments for making the Republic of Djibouti one of the 10 non-permanent members of the Security Council are not lacking, the most important being its long-standing commitment and contribution to peace and fundamental value within the United Nations. The Minister of Defense in charge of relations with Parliament, Mr. Hassan Omar Mohammed, received today a European Union delegation led by the new EU ambassador to Djibouti, Aiden O'Hara, accompanied by Vice Admiral Antonio Martorell, Commander Living Operation Inavor, Atlanta, and General Major Antonio, a new commander of operation, on the agenda of his discussions between the minister and the EU delegation, ways and means of further promoting and developing friendly and cooperative relations between the Republic of Djibouti and the European Union, and the progress of the main issues on which both sides have been working successively together. Indeed, Djibouti and the European Union continue to cooperate extensively in defense matters, in particular maritime security. The Minister of National Education and Vocational Training, Mr. Mustafa Mohammed Mahmoud, received this morning a courtesy visit from Mr. Boubacar Sid Barri, the new representative of the World Bank. The meeting, which took place in the minister's office, was an opportunity for the MENFAB to make a broad presentation of the teaching and learning improvements projects, as well as the Djibouti Schools transformative project. It was an opportunity for him to go back in depth on MENFAB's policy, which emphasizes the development of human capital, the only wealth available in the country. We are doing everything possible to enable companies in the country and the region to find a workforce in senior technicians capable of meeting the needs of the market, said the minister. He insisted on technical education and vocational training, which is the subject of a whole strategy that has been developed, is being implemented with the support of the technical and financial departments. For his part, the representative of the World Bank said that his courtesy visit was an opportunity to discuss MENFAB's priorities and to take stock of the new World Bank strategy that is being prepared. It was also an appropriate time to highlight the importance of vocational training that will be integrated into this new strategy to help Djibouti create the jobs necessary for its economic growth, he said. The Minister of Muslim Affairs and Culture, Mr. Mumin Hassan Barre, took part in the opening of a ceremony of the fourth edition of the Pan-African Forum for the Culture of Peace, which took place in Luanda, Angola, from 18 to 22 September. This forum is part of the dynamics of the African continent through initiatives for peace and the promotion of cultural and civilization dialogue. Organized by the Angolan government, UNESCO, and the African Union, this event aims to promote the Pan-African movement for a culture of peace and non-violence in order to restore prosperity and stability. The inaugural ceremony was attended by the President of Angola, Mali, and Namibia, as well as the chairperson of the African Union Commission and the Director General of UNESCO. Upon his arrival at the center of the Luandan Convention, the Minister of Culture, Mumin Hassan Barre, was welcomed by his Angolan counterpart, Ms. Ana Paula, with whom he exchanged views on strengthening cultural relations between the two countries. In the margins of this Luanda biannual, the minister met with several political figures, including the President of the Republic of Mali. The Budget Minister Abdul Karim Aden Shah received this morning the new Indian ambassador accredited to Djibouti, Mr. Ashok Kumar. The ambassador expressed his real pleasure in meeting with the Minister of the Budget to discuss how best to strengthen cooperation in areas that the minister will consider priorities. Discussions focused in particular on the state of the progress of the cement plant and the delays caused which are hindering its completion. Later on, the prospects for cooperation in technical training specifically related to capacity building in the areas of tax, custom, and other areas were discussed. As part of his local field trips, the minister in charge of decentralization, Hamadou Mohamed Aramis, met on Saturday with the demographically significant population of the Leado Aleilu, northeast of Lekape. In remote and isolated rural areas of the Dikhe region, the minister was accompanied on this trip by the Chief of Defense Staff, Brigadier Tahir Muhammad Ali, the newly appointed the Prefect of Dikhe, Aden Musa Darar, and the President of the Dikhe Regional Council, Abdurrahman Yunis Array. The particularity of this trip compared to previous ones was the involvement on the high directives of the Chief of General Staff, General Zakaria Shah Ibrahim, of the armed forces, who supported the ministry in charge of decentralization logistics, and with the medical team to participate in the operation of force aid to the population programmed on this occasion in support of the team of the Dakhil Hospital Center. The ADF will also be involved in this remote rural area with the Secretariat of State for Decentralization and the Ministry of Social Affairs and Solidarity, the latest strategic partner in the fight against poverty. Minister Aramis arrived at the St. Police site where he received a very warm welcome during the meeting under a shade tree arranged for the occasion. Representative of the population took the floor in turn to welcome the Minister of Decentralization and his delegation. They highlighted the fact that Minister Aramis is the first member of the government to visit them in their region. While complaining about the situation of abandonment in terms of administration and neglect of the benefits of basic services, they mainly insisted on the problem of isolation. They expressed their satisfaction in the creation of the head of state of a new department in charge of decentralization, including among the many missions the outreach efforts to entire population without geographical inclusion to inform themselves of their situation and make efforts to find solutions to their difficulties as far as possible. The president of the Dakhil Regional Council, Abdurrahman Yunis Array, thanked the minister for this noble initiative and for inviting him to participate. He noted that he is a dynamic young minister who prefers to be on the ground closer to his fellow citizens than in air He added that the precarious situation he saw on the spot as well, he reassured his interlocutors that they could count on Minister Aramis to forward information on the causes of their difficulties to the competent authorities and even to the highest level in order to provide solutions as far as possible. The prefect of Dakhil region, Mr. Aden Musa Derar, noted that it was an honor for Minister Aramis that as Minister of the Department of Decentralization, he was the first member of the government to cross Lake Abe and visit the people of Liadou Alelu Road to learn about their situation and listen to their grievances, and thanked him on their behalf for this noble initiative. As for the minister, in his speech, Mr. Hamadou Mohamed Aramis thanks the people of Liadou Alelu Road for their welcome. Despite multiple constraints on the menu of their daily lives, he said, Mr. Aramis reminded his interlocutors that the head of state, Ismail Margele, is very concerned about improving the living conditions of his compatriots wherever they may be, especially those in rural areas. He pointed out that it is for this reason that he created a department dedicated to the decentralization in his government, and that upon his appointment as head of it, he enjoined him to be attentive to the latter in order to be informed of their situation wherever they may be throughout the national territory and to respond to their complaints in real time. And finally, Minister Aramis thanked the Djibouti Armed Forces for their work and support to the population in remote rural areas. In this statement, the Ministry of Agriculture, Water and Fisheries, Livestock Resources informed the population, particularly nomads living along the river, that access to the Djibouti Turkish Friendship Dam at PK25 is strictly prohibited due to the risk of drowning and or flooding. End of statement. A delegation of Japanese ship owners led by Japanese Ambassador Koshi Onitani began this morning a visit to the various port infrastructure, starting with the Durale Terminal Management Corporation. They were greeted by the acting executive director, who previously provided them with information on the transshipment, loading and unloading of the SGTD. Subsequently, the Japanese ship owners toured the new international free zone where they were able to see the warehouses, hangars, and other parts. And at the end, they returned to the headquarters where they were warmly welcomed by Mr. Abubakar Omar Hadi. On this occasion, the head of the Ports Authorities and Free Zones and Marketing Department made a presentation on upcoming infrastructure projects, during which the hosts asked questions. During this highly important meeting, Japanese ship owners showed a strong interest in the dry port that Djibouti's port have at their disposal, because it facilitates trade offshore fueling, which is refueling at sea, but also the container terminal. As part of its new indoor campaign, the Ministry of Health began last Saturday, a major indoor spraying operation that began in Ingala in FNB, where about 10 spraying brigades were on site for a door-to-door campaign. The campaign initially focuses on the main malaria areas in order to control the proliferation of flies and mosquitoes that are vectors in the transmission of malaria. It should be noted that this door-to-door intra-domestic strategy is carried out in close collaboration with the prefecture, the town hall of Djibouti, local elected officials, and also with the support of the health hygiene committees at the neighborhood level. The residents of the neighborhoods concerned enthusiastically welcomed the health workers by facilitating access to their homes and complying with all the preventive instructions that had been widely distributed in advance. And finally, these important preventive are carried out by the Ministry of Health as part of a vector control and contribute to providing appropriate solutions to reduce the negative impact on the health of the population. And now moving on to the international news, Ebola. Democratic Republic of Congo wants to introduce a second vaccine. The Department of Health has announced that a campaign using a vaccine produced by the American laboratory Johnson & Johnson will start soon. Another vaccine manufactured by Merck has already been administered to more than 225,000 people in the country since the outbreak was declared more than a year ago. This is the 10th outbreak of Ebola in the Democratic Republic of Congo since the 1970s. The more than 2,100 people died as a result. The fight against the disease is all the more difficult because the epicenter is in North Kivu, a province with a very unstable security situation. The climate for now, young people are demanding a place at the decision-making table. They will not just demonstrate on the streets. Young climate activists are demanding their place at the decision-makers table. Some 500 participants took this message to the United Nations at a summit to which Secretary General Antonio Guterres had invited them. Among them, the icon of the fight against global warming, demonstrators had marched through some 160 countries to call on leaders on the climate emergency. On Monday, representatives of the states will meet at United Nations headquarters in New York for a summit on the implementation of the Paris Climate Agreement. Well, that's all for this edition. Thank you for following us on the radio television of Djibouti and have a wonderful evening.